I know we started our podcast right after the draft, so we didn't get a good chance to kind of talk about these college prospects while they were still in college. And I know you've been more into college football, and I've kind of recently come on to this. But looking forward to the 2023-2024 season, I think it'd be a good idea for us to kind of list out which 5 or 6 guys, whatever kind of guys that we're looking for going forward. For me, it's going to be I'm looking for Xavier Worthy out of Texas. I'm looking at Jerry Rice Jr. from USC, Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, Braylon Allen, the running back from Wisconsin, and kind of honestly all of the Wisconsin football team with under Luke Finkel, who just came over from Cincinnati. Xavier Worthy, I've kind of been watching him since like a couple of his freshman year. I remember he kind of popped onto the scene. I think it was Texas versus Oklahoma, where they almost completed the comeback. I think it was against Kyler Murray's Oklahoma team. And I just remember watching the dude. He looked like a sophomore in high school. He was like 160 pounds. And I think he's still 160 pounds, but he was just torching that Oklahoma defense. And he's been doing it ever since. I'm really excited to see him in the NFL. I know you're already going to hear a lot of negative stuff. Oh, he's so light. He's too underweight. The dude is a route runner. He's got the speed. He knows how to get open. He finds the soft spots in coverage. And he's just, I mean, he's electric. So I'm really excited to see where he kind of goes and falls in the draft. He probably will get a 3rd round grade because of his weight, 3rd or 4th round grade. But I think whatever team gets him is going to get an absolute steal. Jerry Rice Jr., he's obviously a 49ers legend son. I can't not like the guy. But usually with like the players' kids, like they never really seem to pan out. But this dude seems to be doing it at USC. I think he's the like number 2 this past season behind Jordan Addison.
Sure.
But he had a nice quiet season. So I know he's already getting a little bit of a hype. I kind of want to bring more attention to him. Again, he's a former 49ers legend son. I think, I hope he becomes the next legend. But we're talking a lot about Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State. I think we need to give a little love to Jerry Rice Jr. at USC. We also have, like I said, Michael Penix Jr. I watched him back in Indiana. He gave me a lot of Lamar Jackson vibes with his running ability, his escapability. He's got that same kind of like strong arm, but it kind of surprises you, strong arm. So very much into the mold of like a Lamar Jackson. Now, again, I think he's probably a guy that, depending on how his season goes, he could be maybe a late 1st, early 2nd round kind of guy that ends up getting taken. But again, I think he's another guy that's going to he might be like a Jalen Hurts, like, he's drafted later than what you'd expect, but he gets to a team and he really surprises everybody. He's a dude I'm really excited about. Braylon Allen has been a stud since he got to Wisconsin. I remember watching he was in high school. He was like 17 years old when he got there, and he was like power cleaning like 400 pounds and setting records and everything, squatting 6. And I know he initially was going to be like a safety running back, and they weren't really sure. He finally just found his like hold at a running back. And he's been tearing it up ever since. The dude's a tank. And I just want to point this out. His jawline, he looks like the Chin. If you remember, like Fairly Odd Parents,
the jawline,
straight up. He had it at 17, just this massive like jawline. You're like, what's wrong with this kid? But yeah, I think he is a little tank. I think he needs to work on his speed a little bit. But if kind of like what JT coming out a few years ago from Wisconsin, if he can work on his hands and show his pass catching ability a little bit better, I think he can be one of those guys that really convinces a team to spend a 1st round pick on a running back. He can be another kind of like takes over the league, becomes a top 10 running back kind of a guy. Mm-hmm. And like I said, all of Wisconsin, I'm really interested to see what they do there, because their whole thing for years that's been frustrating for me, not even necessarily as a Wisconsin fan, but just like, as a watcher of college football, that's a historic, proud program. And all of their prospects have come from Wisconsin. They don't want to spend money. They don't want to bring in outside guys. They don't recruit in California, Texas, and Florida, and Louisiana. They don't recruit there. Like, they want their guys from Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin. Like, that's where their bread and butter is. And now with Luke Finkel, and they're bringing in 4-star quarterbacks. I think they have like the highest rated quarterbacks they've ever brought in. Like, they actually look exciting. They have multiple options at quarterback. They're bringing in 4-star receivers. Teams are like, players are excited to actually sign there, to come visit. The hype videos are different. Like I said, I'm really excited to see this team finally take off and stop running the ball 90% of the freaking time and actually open up a little bit. So I'm gonna turn it over to you. What are your thoughts? What are you guys you're kind of looking forward to?
Yeah, so I got 2 guys, Emmett. First is Joe Milton. Second is Spencer Rattler, which you might be thinking are random names. But Joe Milton, dude, I've just seen videos of him just launching a ball like 90 yards. Okay. Yeah. I am intrigued to see how this can translate for him on the actual field. Okay. He transferred from Michigan a couple years back. Had a kind of
Right.
slow start to his career. Let's see what happens, right? And then Spencer Rattler. This dude was like that most noise coming out of high school for like a prospect I've seen in a long
Egotistical,
time.
narcissistic, asshole
Yeah.
throwing everyone under the bus. I've seen the clip. I'm sorry. I know he was probably a kid at the time, but it's still kind of like resonates where you're kind of like, man, fuck this guy.
Yeah, yeah. And his career has been full of drama too, right? With Oklahoma getting benched for Caleb, right? And then transferring to South Carolina. I'm
Mhm.
intrigued to see how he ends up in the quarterback rankings for the 2024 class, right? Where does
Yeah.
he end up going? And think, you know, it's all up to him, really, right?
Yeah.
How well can he do? No, I didn't look up the stats yet, but I think he had a decent season at South
I think
Carolina.
he turned it
Nothing
on
too
second
like
half.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
But let's see what happens. Let's see if the hype is real. When he came out of high school, I think he was a top rated quarterback, right? In his like
Yeah, I think
class.
so.
Yeah. Let's see if that can translate for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to see about that too. I think maybe his reputation still precedes him a little bit. Like every offseason, that video of him, just being a terrible teammate gets shared around. But I think, getting benched at Oklahoma and then making the transfer, I think kind of really did humble him.
Mm-hmm.
And even when he transferred, he didn't transfer to, Michigan, Ohio State, another big program. I mean, he went to South Carolina, notoriously not a, big name, gonna set the world on fire school. So I think that
Yeah.
kind of did humble him a little bit. And I think we've kind of seen his teammates seem to really rallied around him towards the end of the year last year. So I wonder how much that's going to affect him when he gets, into this draft process and see how if teams are really going to hold his reputation against him, or if they're going to try to like see if he's really changed and grown. Where do you see those kind of guys if they have good years going in the draft? Do you think they move up into top 10, or do you think middle rounds, end
Um,
rounds?
Depends how good of like a season, right? I know it's kind of weird, vague answer. But you have a pretty good quarterback class right now, right?
Yeah.
You have Caleb from USC, Drake May from North Carolina. Michael Penix has been getting a guy. He's been getting some like love. You have Bo Nix. You have Quinn Ewers out of Texas, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of why I want to kind of bring them up because there's a pretty solid quarterback class right now.
Yeah.
I can see Milton like, dude, what he's 6'4", 240, can throw the ball far. Like if he has a good season, I can see him being a
Yes,
first round
especially in
pick.
that really weird Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee runs an effective, but the really strange kind of offense. It's different from what a lot of other kind of offenses you see. Like they stack dudes on the numbers. They all run like what seems like choice routes, kind of whatever they want. It almost feels like
Mm-hmm.
backyard football.
Yeah. I feel like they could do that with him. I mean, like Duke can throw it like 300
Yeah.
yards. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm
Then
really
he have
excited. I'm really excited for this draft. I think this is going to be like one of those 2011 drafts. So there's so much talent. There's so many quarterbacks. I'm really excited for. There's a lot of. I mean, you got to think about it. You still have like Brock Bowers. You still have the big names, the Marvin Harrison Juniors, and there's a lot of big names coming into this draft. Blake Corum from Michigan should be
yep.
another good one. I mean, um, yeah, I'm really excited about where this draft is going to go. I want to throw one more last name to
Yeah,
you and see what your opinion is of this.
for sure.
JJ McCarthy, the
It's a good
former
one.
lacrosse player. Where do you? I mean, he came on late from Michigan. They switched him, I believe, halfway through the year, right?
So yes and no. So this is his oh actually this is his first full season, right? Being a starter.
Yeah, coming up is going to be his first
Yeah.
full year. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think last year he came in about halfway. They made a quarterback change to him instead.
Yeah, I think you might be talking about his freshman year. I think last year he was the was he? I'm not too certain on that. You're probably right. But yeah, he's gonna be interesting. So coming out of high school, I think he was rated sixth best quarterback in his class.
Mhm.
And given a guy part of programs, so usually, I mean, it's not always right, but usually quarterback for a top five program, which Michigan has been the past 2 years, have garnered a lot more love, right? I feel like things are quiet right now about
Yeah,
JJ. I don't see him getting much love right now. I'm intrigued to see what happens this season, and you know, I don't know, man. I mean, that could be like a wild card. I feel like Michigan runs more of a pro style offense right now too,
they for
so
sure
you
do
think
under
he'll
Jim
be a pretty
Harbaugh.
good fit. Yeah, like I just don't get why things are so quiet right now. Maybe because they do run the ball a lot. His stats aren't there,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, he seems like to me like one of those like wildly talented guys, but also like wildly erratic. I think against it was like against TCU in their bowl game or their
Yeah,
last
threw like
appearance.
two like pick sixes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments you're like, wow, this dude, and there's other moments you're like, what is this kid doing? So I think it'd be interesting to see where his development goes this year, and maybe leaning on that run game will really help curtail some of his more wild tendencies.
Yeah.